Hello and welcome to Insightful Accountants Accounting Insiders podcast. Today I'm joined with Stephen Smith with Controllership Solutions. It's easy for me to say. We're going to talk about earning the trusted advisor status and the evolution of client relationships. So welcome, Stephen. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, before we dive into that, so you're a top 100 award, top 100 pro advisor, multi-year. How many years? Do you know off the top of your head?
8 years.
8 years. Oh, since the beginning.
That's 7 years.
Okay.
Not the first year.
So 2015. I have to count back too. So yeah. So we'll call it 2015, and then you won the Client Accounting Services Award in what year?
2017.
2017. All right.
Yes.
So first question for you: how have those things, being in the top 100 and the one of the award winners, how have you leveraged that in your business, if at all?
No, I've leveraged it quite a bit. It's absolutely one of my differentiators. It's in the email signature of all of my emails. And when potential clients go out to the Pro Advisor site, or they do a Google search, or they talking to friends and family or other bookkeepers, they have a lot of options. So this allows me to rise to the top and basically immediately establish credibility as an authority that they know that if anyone can do it, I'm probably one of the ones that could.
That's great, because that helps me, because we have people all the time, well, why should I do it? Well, I mean, I can tell them what I think, but it helps us to be able to say, well, here's what Stephen said, or here's what Gail said, or, or what have you.
There's a lot of bookkeepers, there's a lot of people that say and think and legitimately think that they are QuickBooks or accounting experts or bookkeepers, but there is a wide range of skill sets in the industry, and just knowing QuickBooks or processing QuickBooks on a day-to-day basis for a company for years and years does not necessarily make you an expert or skilled to help other businesses with their unique needs.
Right. And you say QuickBooks, you 100% focused in QuickBooks?
I'm not. I mean, that's primarily the general ledger. I've dabbled in other accounting systems over the years, mainly by default, and then I have a small niche in the old program of Quicken for personal finances.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's your email address, or one of your email
addresses. It is.
Right?
Yeah, it is, because QuickBooks is very well known. It's very well regarded, and I still consider. I mean, I'm a QuickBooks Pro Advisor, but there's no shortage of people looking for QuickBooks experts. But with Quicken, it's more of an SEO thing, whereas it's a smaller niche, so I have to cast a little wider of that.
Okay. So actually, that's a great segue about your company. Just tell us a little bit about your company, kind of the background of it, how you started, and where you are today.
Okay, my origin story.
Okay, that's right.
As I like to call it.
In the beginning.
In the beginning. Well, I started off in the way beginning in public accounting, like many other accounting grads, PricewaterhouseCoopers and the Big Four, and I was doing audits in capital markets in New York City, and it was just it was not the right fit. It was, the hedges and swaps and derivatives and complex financial instruments, and as a first-year auditor, it was just nothing tangible that I could really ever get my hand around. I just couldn't understand it. So that did not last long. It served its purpose. I got my CPA, but then I was very quickly found a small business, was able to really understand it, improve it, and that was my first exposure.
As you were working for the small business?
Yeah, I took that job as the controller of a small manufacturing facility, and then when that kind of ran its course, it was a moment, a couple of years where I kind of tried to tread water for a while, but it was actually a couple of Craigslist ads where I said I can help you with QuickBooks. And not knowing that there was even really an industry for that at the time. And then there was responses, and it didn't take long before I had referrals. And then I learned of the Pro Advisor program, that there's certifications, and I said, I can get that. And that was like 16, 17 years ago, and I've basically been keeping up with those certifications ever since.
Yeah. And are you certified in the other general ledgers?
I have. Throughout the years, I did Xero, didn't really maintain it. Microsoft came out with a Geo package that was very short-lived. That was short-lived. I had a client once that we moved to NetSuite, and we did the whole NetSuite when they offered the the onboarding, self-serve onboarding, but there was that didn't appeal to me.
Yeah, that's pretty involved, right?
It was involved, and I said, I like, again, going back to when I was, at public accounting, where I just couldn't get my head around, or I couldn't really grasp all the nuances. That frustrated me. I liked the aspect of, I feel like I have a good grasp and good control of the accounting tech stacks that I work with.
Well, since you said tech stack,
Yeah.
what's in that tech stack?
Well, all sorts, really. I mean, it's. I don't have an industry vertical niche, but I mean, if you're professional services, there's Java. If there's if you're in event services, there's it's called Fair Harbor. Then there's the Bill.coms, the Melios, the Expensifys for sure. For the other purposes. Mm-hmm. So all sorts.
Okay. And then in your practice, like when you're dealing with your customers, are you helping them implement these? Because we were talking before, it's kind of your step one. Actually, maybe I'm jumping ahead because I think this really gets deeper into what we're going to talk about this a little bit later. But it's, do you help your clients bring those on board? Like the
from day one, I have always considered and really have stayed as a setup, training, and troubleshooting pro advisor. So yeah, the setup, the training, the optimization, going in and fixing what might be a broken situation. That's really been my niche. Now some engagements last longer than others, depending on how complex the business is. Sometimes it's not just a one and done day, 1 day, 2 day, 3 day type of thing. Sometimes those engagements can last weeks, months, and even years. But the overall scope of the project is always meant to be, I am here to implement, to train, and to pass this off, not the ongoing bookkeeping relationship,
okay,
as many other pro advisors do. So that's been my
okay.
area.
Are there more people doing what you do, or are there fewer people? Or you can really tell. I'm just wondering if the community is kind of going, all right, well, we're going into full service. We do soup to nuts. Or
well, I can't tell, to be honest. I think that when I walk the floor and I talk with people and I hear the speakers on stage talk, I think they're actually pushing people from the recurring bookkeeping role up into the advisory, trusted advisor role, to do more of the complex, heavy lifting type of work. So I feel like the message is to get people to go in that direction, which is really the direction that I've always, from day one, I've been in. In fact, I've maybe even migrated down into the ongoing bookkeeping for a select few of clients.
Gotcha. Let's talk about the evolution of the practice. So again, we say we're going to be earning the trusted advisor status, which we hear that term a lot.
Yes.
Trusted advisor. And I completely agree with it. I mean, the accountant is, what is it? Accountants and lawyers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your two most trusted advisors.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the bankers, but nobody trusts bankers.
No.
Sorry, bankers. And then the evolution of client relationships. So what is that? Like what's your take on that? Kind of earning that trusted advisor status.
So I mean, I look at it like a sales funnel, or if you look at my practice, it's a pyramid. And if you look at the top of the funnel or the bottom of the pyramid, the bottom of the pyramid being the number of clients, the number of client interactions I have, and the top of the sales funnel, it's what is that first touch? What is that first interaction? And 9 out of 10 times, that first touch, that first interaction, that first is a question, and it's usually a technical question. It's, I haven't done bank reconciliations, I don't have accounts receivable, I have a cash flow problem, I don't know who owes me money, and that's what they're looking to solve. That's their immediate, they can't swim, they're treading water, they're going under. So we have to throw them a life raft. And so immediately it's like, okay, let's figure out the situation that is most critical. And that is typically a technical question. The damage has been done. Let's fix it and let's right the ship. And once that's done, then they can breathe. I've also earned some trust. You know, I've built up a little bit of credibility. I've built up their, you know, they can rely on me now. They know what I'm talking about. Okay, well, let's move on. What can we do from here? Where can we move to next? And then it's like, well, now that you've got an accounts receivable, now that you have a bank reconciliation, now that we have a balance sheet, what does it mean? Let's interpret this data and see what this means. Oh, okay. And this is a lot of times it's the first time some of these clients have ever had that or have had the ability to do that, and so they're like, this is great. And then we, you know, what else can we do now? Let's do a SWOT analysis. What are your strengths? And now I've also been exposed to other avenues, other aspects of their business. Where are your pain points? Where can we fix over here? What can we do? What can we do there? And sometimes that's moving to the front office or moving over into this and saying, okay, well, how's your sales process or your inventory or your e-commerce or your bookings or whatever it might be, whatever industry they might be in. And then how is that going to talk and flow through the accounting cycle to the administrators, the back office, the data entry, the bookkeeper, so that it can then go back up to management and give them the information they need.
And through that, so that, I think before you said it could be a one-off engagement where I just come in, I fix a problem, or it may turn into this multi-year because, you know, I guess the bigger the company is, the more problems they have.
Yeah, the bigger the company. I mean, there's a couple of different, you know, there's a couple of different variables. One is the tone at the top, the appetite of the owner to implement change. You know, how willing are they to rock the boat, or are they truly just looking for the technical, you know, the technical fix, and then okay, it's back to the status quo. We won't make that mistake again. But you know what? No, we're okay with a certain degree of manual operations. We're okay with this. We're not really looking to do that. And that's okay with many clients. That's usually not a fit for me, so I would probably just organically be able to move on.
Right.
Other clients that do have an appetite for that, they do start to say, yes, I would like to do that. So then I become more of a change agent in managing that pace of progress. And it gets a little political because you're disrupting and you're asking, bookkeepers and administrators and salespeople, and you're often asking them to change. And so now we have to, dance around those issues. And that's when I can, of course, draw upon the reservoir of trust that I built when I solved their technical problems, right, or that kind of stuff. So we'll keep proceeding. We'll keep proceeding with those issues.
Are you partnering up with other pro advisors in any of these projects? Like, are you you get into one, you're like, well, I'm okay, and I'm really good at this. I'm okay at this. Do you ever bring other people in?
On occasion, yeah, I've made connections over the years. So on occasion, I have said, well, you know what, I'm actually not the best person for this aspect. You should talk to this person, or you should talk to that person. Okay. So for sure.
And is it, how many people is you?
I have one staff.
Okay. Which, yeah, we have our two partners, and then everything else is outsourced for us currently. So is there a customer persona, or you said you don't niche, right? Not any particular niche, but do you gravitate towards any particular set or types of businesses?
Yeah, I would call the niche more of a mindset, in that I will gravitate to employees with ownership that is looking for sustainable, sellable, or scalable type of goals. So if they're looking to sell, then they need systems. If they're looking to scale, they need systems. If they're just looking to sustain growth, they need systems. So that is generally the mindset that really of my clients in general. Those are the types of clients that will ultimately be better and better clients. And like I said, as a pyramid, at the bottom there's a lot of just 1 or 2 engagements, fix their technical issues, they're happy with the status quo, that's fine. The next level, we'll have clients that, okay, come back in a month, come back in 2 months, come back in 3 months, and sometimes it's like, you know what, those clients at the bottom almost become annual clients because of course they were status quo a year, but they didn't at the end of the year, they still need to freshen up and that kind of stuff. And I still can't help myself. I'll still dive into like, well, how is your business? What have you been doing? What's going on? And because I'm interested and I care and I like to you know, provide value and to provide, you know, an opinion, and 90% of the time that's very well received, and that's why they bring me back after years or months, even if it's not an ongoing formalized relationship. And then at the top of that pyramid becomes the clients where it's like, okay, let's do this deep, let's do this, let's really, you know, dive in, and those clients become like, you know, they really have become an outsourced controller for, like I said, months, years, and then or even a year or two, and then eventually the business will get to a point where it's like, okay, you've got systems, we've gone through the learning curve, we've got, you know, growth, it's working, but they need more. And, you know, it's like, Stephen, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? And, well, I can do this.
Right.
But am I the right person to do it anymore? You know, is it, you know, and if I'm charging right, then I'm not the right person to be doing that kind of recurring work. So that's when it's like, okay, well, I'm happy to have on board a full-time, or let's develop your internal staff. And that's also something I find very gratifying. You know, in the beginning, there's a little bit of trepidation. You know, what are you going to do? You're changing things, and usually it doesn't take, you know, very long for them to really warm up and say, "Oh, this is great. You know, this is very good." You know, and sometimes it even works. And you know, it was the owner that brought me in, and the bookkeeper might have been a little bit reluctant, and then it's like, well, when's Stephen coming back? And the owner's saying, well, didn't he train you? Can't you do this yet?
Yes, but there's always something else to learn, right?
Right.
And so you mentioned pricing. You mentioned if you're pricing right. How do you set that? How do you set your pricing?
I'm a little bit traditional in that, you know, it is, you know, it's a day rate. So it's a day rate, and if there's virtual consultation, it's kind of a session rate.
Okay. So on the day rate, so how much of your business then would be in that day versus virtual, and I'm thinking virtual being you're in New Jersey, right? Working
Correct.
with somebody in California.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's your virtual, but do you do most face-to-face? Is that where most of your business is?
I mean,
Prior to COVID?
Well, pre and post COVID, I mean, COVID was not much of an event for me. I mean, it used to be 2-3 days a week on site somewhere.
Okay.
Now it might be 1 day a week on site somewhere. And that's just an average, because sometimes a month or two will go by and then I'll be somewhere 3 days in a row, and then, you know, different places 3 days in a row.
And is the face-to-face gone just because you've got the tools to be able just to you zoom in or what have you, and you can do it that way, or?
You know what? I would actually say it's a combination of, yes, I have the tools. 2, it's now geography is even less relevant, so it's really the client that's open to the virtual relationship. And the third is that, you know, for the clients that even I am on site for, it's very quickly I'm going to be pushing them whether or not, you know, to move to virtual anyways.
Right.
You know, so I'll be saying, listen, you got to do something about your old IT infrastructure.
Gotcha. So this is going back to a conversation we had in Fort Worth,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sorry, the guy that works for you, John?
Yes.
Is that his name, John? So tell us about him, because I think it's very interesting. Something you said in Fort Worth that while you were talking, it came to my mind. I don't know why. But so what's his day job?
He is a full-time career firefighter.
Right. And I recalled that. And so for you, what does he do?
Well, in those clients that we have at the bottom of our funnel or the top of the pyramid, so to speak, where we do take on a role of the bookkeeper, where we are doing some light coding, reconciliations and reporting. he will maintain that. He maintains that. And then we have a couple of, we've actually served as a interim staff for a local special needs school. So he's actually gone in and fulfilled that role, and he's done it so well that the interim position has gone on for quite some time as scope has crept.
Oh, that's awesome.
And where we can continue to add value.
That's great. And the reason I wanted to come back to that is, great resignation, and while it's, it's hard to find people, right? Even though, which those two don't really make sense, do they? Everybody quit their job, but they still have to work somewhere, right?
I don't know.
One would think. But when we talked about him, and he may have even been standing there, but in Fort Worth, and you mentioned he's a full-time firefighter, but you also mentioned, think about those people, right? Just think about, where can we find talent, right? So, full-time firefighters, I would imagine police officers fall in the same thing, because they work kind of, unusual hours, right? They work 36 hours in a row, or whatever their cadence is on the job. But you just I recall in Fort Worth, you were talking about, the work ethic, right? These guys have super high work ethics,
yeah,
right? And,
yeah.
And they're available in chunks of time. And so for anybody watching or listening, my point in bringing that up is, here's a whole source of people who are hardworking, intelligent, loyal people.
Yeah, no, it's been a great relationship, and I thank him, and it's been good. Now, I've tried to nurture that as well. I've embraced that. I mean, we haven't actually even seen each other since Fort Worth, and we probably only talked to each other a couple times.
Okay.
I mean, we're that now, and because he's got a schedule and he makes his own schedule, and it's a changing schedule. We communicate via task management, and I'll shoot a video and post the video, and you can see what needs to be done, and then I've also set the expectation with clients that we are not a fit for deliverables, right? So we're not the firm that's running payroll or cutting checks, or again, I very much tried to be the implement, set up, training, troubleshooting, that kind of thing for the clients that really want so much of us that they want that. Okay, we'll do that, but again, it's still not going to be. It's going to be, the after the fact. It's not going to be, you need somebody else to be doing that timely activities, that timely work, because neither my staff or myself are really set up for that.
Right. Yeah, it's not what we do.
No.
Right? And stay in your lane, stay in your niche, or focus on what you do best, right? So, what else? I know you've got some notes, I've got some notes. Anything else that we haven't touched on that you wanted to talk about around that evolution of your practice or of the client relationships?
No, that touched it.
Yeah, right.
That did it.
Any kind of just parting words just for your peers, right? And I think one thing that's great about this community is it's a very sharing community.
Right.
Right. And I don't know, in the 15 years I've been in it, I don't know that I've ever really come across anybody who wasn't a friendly competitor. Right? I mean, I don't recall ever seeing a competitive set where people, I won't talk to him because he's taking business.
Yeah.
So much business.
No, there is.
Right?
That's
so
not our
opportunity.
competition. Our competition is just people who are just not interested in it.
Right.
Apathy really is our competitor.
Right. And then, do you do a lot? I mean, with other pro advisors? I mean, we touched on it a little bit earlier, but do you have your
I definitely,
short list?
I definitely, there's a short list of people that we talk, sometimes it's to gripe, sometimes to share, sometimes it's to bounce feedback, sometimes it's questions, but yeah, it's a couple of people like that, both, regionally and across the country, for sure.
Okay. Well, great.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining me in this podcast. I'm Gary Dehart with Insightful Accountant, and again, thank you, Steve Smith, for joining us for Accounting Insiders.